Welcome back to Brews with the Homies. This is your host, Brews with D Bro. On this episode, we got a special guest, Brews Clues. But before we get into this episode, I gotta say a big thanks to you listeners for listening in. We've been seeing a lot of numbers coming up, and we just want to take the time to say thank you. We appreciate everything that you guys do. And on top of it, I gotta say a big thanks to Mr. Heron over here. He's been hard at work at editing and making sure these videos and the audio is getting out to you guys. So a big round of applause for you, Mr. Heron. We appreciate you. And how's it going, fellas?
Pretty good, you know.
We're ready doing pretty good, pretty solid. Mm-hmm. So we got Brews Clues here. For you guys that don't know, that's the man.
The myth.
The legend.
As he likes to say.
As I like to say.
But yeah, let's get into it. We met you at Beer Zombies. You're always there at our events. You know, we support you. You support us. It's kind of that cool connection, as we always talk about in the craft beer community, meeting people, getting to share kind of experiences and the whole shebang. So we wanted to have you on here, kind of talk about your journey, what you do, and I'll let you have the floor. You brought a beer for us to share. I brought another one, so I'll let you do the first one and talk about yourself a little bit.
Perfect. So first things first, let's talk about the beer then.
Okay, let's go straight into it.
First things. So this is Humble Sea, Starfish Is Born. This one is actually from my friend Jeff, the other half of Brews Clues, and he's out in LA area.
Okay.
So I don't think he has it anymore. He had a subscription to, you know how you have those beer delivery services?
Yep.
Untapped has one. I think who's the other one that has one? The
Tavern or
Tavor. Yeah. So it was T something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had Tavor, and you know when you get one of those beer subscriptions, the hardest thing to do is whittle down the fridge because they keep coming.
Yeah. You're like,
and you pick up stuff locally, you keep selecting stuff online, and next thing you know, you're flooding your fridge and annoying
your
everybody.
Fridge becomes more than a beer fridge, and then your regular fridge becomes more of a beer fridge, and you're just like
crossing those boundaries. Like, it was for food, now it's for beer.
Now we can't shop at Costco anymore. You can't get the bulk. But
get the bulk.
Yeah, so he's been whittling down his fridge. He canceled that subscription. He's been trying to go towards more our local craft brewers over there.
Nice.
And we had that the Mumford earlier, so that's one of them that he's trying to grab more locally and support them. After trying, a bunch of stuff stateside, you might as well try the ones that are local to your area first and support them before you start hopping everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so this is an older one, but it's a good one. I mean, Humble Sea, I've only had a couple of them. Have you guys had?
Yeah, I've had them a few times. We've had it at the shop, right?
Yeah, we've had Humble Sea at the shop, and then we also have had it on the golf course as well.
Yep. I know a couple times when I've gone down there. Bottlecraft usually carries them, so we've gotten a wide selection. I like a lot of their stuff. I know we've had a couple too, to where they have like a wide range. I know they do a lot of like singles, and then they go up to triples, and then I think we've even had a couple of they're like pilsners or lagers.
Right.
So this one, I think you were saying is double.
Yeah,
right?
This one, it says this is one of those things on Untapped. It lists it as a New England hazy IPA, but in the description it says it's a DDH foggy IPA.
Okay, so double dry hop foggy IPA. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what's the ABV on this one?
This is a 7%er.
Nice.
Ooh, nice.
Okay, so it's like kind of in that percentage of a single, almost a double.
Well, salute here, fellas.
Yep, cheers.
Salute. Gotta get over there.
Get all the clinks.
Oh, last one. They finally touched.
Alright. Thoughts?
Nice.
We'll let you lead it off.
So one of my favorite hops is Citra.
Yeah.
I will say my number one favorite hop is Nelson. I just like the creaminess. I know it's real controversial, especially if you go to Beer Zombies. I know a lot of haters for Nelson, but that is my favorite. I like the creaminess out of it. Second favorite, I gotta say Citra. So I really do get a lot of Citra out of this, and I think you taste it more because it's not perfectly cold, and you can taste more individual hops when the beer warms up. So I really like the Citra out of it. It says that also has the Centennial, Amarillo, and the Galaxy. Yeah. What do you guys taste more?
So Galaxy is one of my favorite hops. We've talked about it a couple times before. Yep. I like Galaxy because I feel like every time I've had it, very like creamy, juicy. You get a lot of like very approachable flavors. Yeah. So it's funny when you say like that Citra is like your second favorite, because I know some people really don't like Citra, and then you go to Nelson, so kind of controversial when you have those two coming together.
What you're trying to say, he has a unique taste.
Yeah. But he has a good taste, because if you do those right, then you get a really good beer.
Yes. I will say that Galaxy is my third.
Okay,
so I will put that as my number 3.
So in this beer, you got 2 out of the 3. I mean, that's pretty good.
And it's fairly close to Simcoe in 4th. Entirely different, but I like that stickiness out of it. So I put that number 4. What would you say is your top 3? Do you guys all have different ones?
I would say Galaxy, Citra, and then Nelson, because I have a love-hate with that. It's like I've had it not done very well, but then I've had the banger ones that are like, okay, it brings it back up.
The ones that get your attention.
Yeah, Citra's always good, because a lot of the good breweries, if you know how to do such like Monkish does it really well, Fit-ins, like when you do a good Citra, it's always great. But Galaxy got introduced with it. The Monkish does it really well. What do you think, Aaron?
Strata's pretty good.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Strata, you get all these hop varieties, and you're like, what the hell is this? But I don't know. They all taste a little bit different. The only way to really kind of figure it out is just to go ahead and have a beer that is just only one hop.
Yeah, single hops.
And then you're like, okay, that's interesting, but it does a different brewery make it a little different to where it tastes different. So you're like, okay, that's still the same hop, but what did they change? The malt,
yeast,
malt bill,
all
or
that
something.
stuff.
Yeah. So it's always interesting when we talk about the hops, because we haven't really dove into it yet. So.
Yeah, it reminds me of like when we did some of those like blind tasting episodes way back in the day. We need to do more of those to where we try to identify like where
individual hops.
Yep. Yeah. And like where the beer is from, like what part of the West Coast, East Coast, or what brewery, if we could kind of like attach it. Yeah. So that's where like when we got into the hops, I know Green Sheet does it. They'll do a couple single or double hop ones where they have pairs, so you could kind of start to like figure out, pinpoint which ones.
And I think that's the perfect example, getting the single hop, so you know. And I always look for that
side by side,
because I really can't tell if I'm getting a blend. There's 5 hops in one, and people are like, "Oh, I taste this, I taste that." I was like, I've never had that on its own, so I don't know what that's supposed to taste like. But I taste these hops that I've had out of it.
So for my hops, Nelson's number 1.
Okay. Let's go.
So that's kind of funny how that pans out, and then Galaxy's number 2, and then Citra's number 3.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we've had so many good beers that it's hard to kind of...
So my all-time favorite beer is, the main hop in it is New England. Or not New England, shit. Wow.
New Zealand.
No, it's Nelson.
Nelson. Okay.
It's Nelson. And so, for me, I was like, anytime I have Nelson, I'd be like, this has similarities to this beer. And then it's just like, trip down memory lane.
So you got basically the opposite of PTSD with.
So when it's funny when the guys at the shop talk about Nelson, they're like shitting on it. I'm like that guy in the corner that's like, okay, I'm not gonna raise my hand. It's like that episode of SpongeBob where they go to Winnie Hut Jr. and they go over to the biker bar and they're trying to weed him out. Yeah, that's me. I'm SpongeBob and Patrick sitting there like, oh my god, shut up! I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah, I take the hate. I'm just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody's palate's different. So I think that's what makes craft beer, right?
Yeah.
Because the most interesting part is knowing everybody's opinion. Like, you guys have all said a little bit different, other than me and you. We've had pretty much the same. But everybody has a different palate. Everybody has a different opinion towards certain tastes. So.
Mine's like Citra and Galaxy, though, really.
Yeah?
It's one of the basic ones, so
yeah,
I'm more of the creamy. I like the creamy IPAs a lot, so it's really good.
So it's tough because like I know like where you'll see some of like West Coast styles. My dad likes that a lot. Like you'll see like some random like Idaho 7, and then you get some like experimental hops. I like when breweries like to throw some extra like different things at you to get different profiles of taste. But you kind of just, those are the ones that are usually gravitated towards because they're the ones where across the U.S. they're really good, and when they're done well, It's like everyone gravitates towards those. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple that we're missing that they're done very well, and I'm sure people will be like, you forgot about these 2 or 3 hops that are incredible.
Hey, it's okay.
But,
they can let us know.
Yeah, they'll have to let us know.
They
We'll
gotta
have
let
to
us
get
know.
more beers with different stuff, because I try to do that every once in a while, but like you said, it's hard to get when it's not those 3 like major ones.
Right.
As a single, like not a lot of places, because you could waste a batch completely if you do like an experimental hop, or if you do a hop that people don't like, do a whole batch.
Yeah.
What happens if it doesn't come out good? What happens if people don't like it? So you kind of got to stick to what people know and like. It's hard to branch out and do, I'm going to do a single hop this, and then mass produce or do a release, and then people not like it.
Yeah.
So it's always
I agree, and
chance.
I feel like people should speak up more about like what they like and what they don't like, because I feel like brewers are also a little bit confused on what will be a hit, and they're, you don't always want to take the risk, especially in craft beer.
That's true.
Where you just don't know where your next beer is going to come from, whether you should do something that's going to appeal to masses or risk it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I really feel like people should talk about more about which hops they like and comment on it, especially on things like Untapped or even on your guys' podcast or whatever videos
You
are posted.
inspired me. So the next time they bring it up at the shop, I'm going to plant the flag on the hill, and I'm going to climb that hill. But here on Brews with the Homies, we drink the beer, we talk about the beer, and we kind of talk in between. But we have a famous rating system that James has come up with.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna have James do his famous rating of this beer, because he didn't like it because it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have him rate it, and then we're gonna kind of go through and kind of rate it from there. And we use the Untapped rating system, but James has a special rating system.
So my famous ratings is a part of the take your clothes off good. So basically, it's again a 1 to 5.
Okay.
So my 5 is like New Beach in Spain. Really, it's like all the clothes are off. You're at the beach.
I'm so glad that we're going here. Sorry to interrupt. I was like, we have to take off clothes.
No,
I was like, how much do you like this beer? Take it off and
Take it
show
off.
us.
No. That's not this kind of podcast.
No.
You can find that at Only Beers, though.
Oh, okay. That makes
subscribe
sense.
to our only beers,
like,
and then you can see the full
They
episode.
said beer's not really like the ratings. That's pretty unique. I like that a lot. No, but my 4 is like a shirt and like pants off good. So you still have the underwear on, the socks on. But yeah, it's a really good solid beer. So that's what I give it, is a shirt and shorts, which is a 4. So
Okay, that's a really
good.
good system, and I agree with that. I agree with that rating.
right on.
Heron, take the floor.
I mean, nothing really stands out at me. It doesn't doesn't tickle me in any one direction. It really just, it's kind of whatever hops are in there, they really play well together, and they kind of just like dance a little bit. But it gives you enough flavor. Like, I don't know, it's got enough like bite to it and interestingness where like it's a good beer, but nothing like super stands out. So I guess a 4 or whatever that looks like in practice.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah, a 4.
Well, 'cause
In retail.
I always go off that system to where Untapped 1 through 5, just multiply it by the 20, like out of 100. So like a 4 is like a solid 80, right? Like the B's still great. You're getting to that point. Heron hit it. It's good across the board, right? It's hitting the notes. It's done well. It's a safe play. Like this, easily sell, easily marketable, great beer. But we've had so many great beers. It always goes back to, we have really good beer on the podcast, but at this point, our standards are so high.
Exactly.
So when we get to those ratings, we want to let people know, like when we get to those really good beers, oh damn, like this is what stood out. We like funky stuff. We like when that hop is like really showcasing, or if there's like a wave of flavor where they perfectly pin place things. Like we had one pre-podcast beer, like Green Cheek, their Cocoa Hut series. We have the one with pineapple, many months old, but still could hit that coconut flavor to where it's not like artificial. You still get like a really nice coconut creamy taste, and the pineapple's still slightly there. Like that stuff like wows you, right? Yeah. And it's like a risk that they take. You got to put it all together. So still going with a 4 on this one.
So for me, the baseline is like a beer that is good but like doesn't really stand out is a 4 for me. So this is a 4, but kind of like you were talking about it, the beers in between, like when you do like a bottle share or like when you're drinking with a lot of people, this is a perfect beer to have in between of like something that you had like that was a heavily sour, like the smoothie style. Like this is a good one to kind of like clean your palate, get back into it, you know? Because with this one, like Karen was saying, the hops dance with you. Yeah. They're there. but it's not like something that's like, oh wow, it's like, oh, this is good. Like I can enjoy this. So I'll stick with the 4 on that one.
And I think JB brought out a great point. It depends where your ceiling's at, right?
Yeah.
Depends what you've had. If you've had really great beer, then suddenly the standards are different.
Yeah, most definitely.
It also matters what your floor is at.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's just as important as the ceiling. Because if you haven't had terrible beer, then you don't know where to exactly put it. You got to have both, a ceiling and a floor. So.
Yeah, before you got here, we had a beer that was extremely flat that we all
yeah, it was like a lager that basically
Yeah.
tasted like apple juice champagne-y. So it's like, oh, now we know what that off flavor is, right? Like, gotta remember that for one of these times. But so let's kind of get in and transition more to you. How did you get into the craft beer journey? What made you gravitate towards that, and like, why do you keep pursuing it? Kind of get that whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say my friend Jeff, who's the other half of Brews Clues, out in LA, he's the one that got me into, even before craft beer, into any kind of alcohol at all. Okay. So he's the one that started that whole journey, and then we were like, as everybody starts, you're not drinking craft beer to start out with unless you know one of you guys from the get-go.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started out drinking, like just the plain shock tops and blue moons of the world, and even that back then, that's considered like, oh yeah, like that's
really crowd.
That's
special,
real, something
comfort
special.
Zone a little bit.
Yeah, it's something a little different. So we started out with that, and then it just kind of started spinning after that, because it's like, well, let's try this, let's try that. I remember our one of our favorite beers at the time, which was craft. Like, oh, nobody knows about this, even though it's pretty mainstream, was the Sam Adams Cherry Wheat.
Oh, okay.
That was like our go-to. We would literally go and like play basketball in the park and be like, oh, dude, the most refreshing thing right now would be a Sam Adams Cherry Wheat. We'd pop in that at out of Ralph's, out of a grocery store in California, and we'd grab a 6-pack of that and just be throwing back, because it's nice, it's light, it's refreshing. So that's where it originally started. And then of course, Mr. Jeff being Mr. Jeff, he gets other ideas. He's like, well, let's try this, let's try that. And it just kind of spinballed, and I'd just be like, all right, let's try it. And for me, one of the things that defined me as a person is I am very open to very new experiences, new things. If it's new, it takes very little convincing for me, because I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Hell yeah.
So it's like Joseph over here with triples. Once he hears the trip,
it's
like, instant. Here's my card, take it, give me some.
Let me try it. Let's
take my money.
So tripping animals, you're just always.
It's like, oh no, wrong tripping. But it's like, no, I love tripping animals. I love their stuff. But yeah that triple IPAs, quads, and then nowadays I've kind of rewinded back to lagers, pilsners, and enjoying the full. Yeah, I'll never. This is my new love and joy that I'll never.
I'm so curious. I've been looking at this thing. I'm eyeballing this. Like, it's so hard to focus.
Okay, so we'll let you continue, but just so we can sip on it and talk about it as we go. This is a barrel aged written in the stars. So this is from Mortalis and Imprint. It's their barrel aged version of the one we had on the podcast way back. So I will make sure in the description to link that episode, talk about it, just put a little blurb in there so you guys could go back, because we love that one. I remember it. Now to see it barrel aged, I've always loved Mortalis barrel aged stuff, so kind of cool to have Imprint and them do it, because I think we recommended, we would love to see it barrel aged back then, so it's cool to see it almost a year later. Boom, it's there. So I had to grab it.
The name of this reminds me of a book, like it reminds me of an author, Nicholas Sparks. Like this feels like a Nicholas Sparks.
Written in the stars.
Written in the stars, presented by Nicholas Sparks.
And then like the label on there, we'll put it up there for people to see. But it's like it's a guy and a girl chilling, looking at the stars.
Yeah,
nice. It's like a high school like reading material there.
That's where he was going with that.
Yeah, your summer reading material, but it's drinkable.
So don't ask me how I know who Nicholas Sparks is.
Cheers. Boom.
Salute. Ooh.
Very smooth.
All right, who wants to take this one first? Because there's some.
Hold on. I need a second one.
Okay.
The first one I feel like doesn't do it justice. I feel like there was so much that happened that it like kind of just went over my head, and I was like, what?
Sometimes you have to take a little time to appreciate it. But we'll give each other all some time. We'll let you continue with your story on that journey.
Absolutely. So we were at the Cherry Wheat, nice, refreshing, and he started getting into a lot of other craft beer, and I was just kind of tagging along. So he was the guy. He was the quote unquote bad influence or good influence, depending how you look at it. The plug. So that's how I slowly got into it. Just kind of following his lead, and he would be picking up new types of beer. He's the one that introduced me into sours, in fact. That's when actually I got more into beer, because before that I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I like this, yeah, this is cool. But then when you start distinguishing different things within the certain styles, I feel like that's when you're actually into craft beer.
So it's funny that you say that, because that's how I felt when Heron and Joseph here first got into craft beer. Like they kind of like, I was there kind of like trying a few, and I was like, oh, this is like this is okay. Like
Right.
this isn't something like I would always drink, but like I would always try. And they finally gave me my all-time favorite beer, and I had it, and ever since that moment forward, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, so my question is, I guess to follow this up is what was that? Do you remember the name of the sour, or what brewery that sour was from?
I don't remember, because they're, they kind of came in waves, right?
Yeah.
Like the biggest ones you can remember are like the 450 wave and like the RAR wave and things like that. So I think, I'm not even sure. It definitely wasn't Great Notion, because I feel like they started a little bit later. So I feel like it might have been originally some 450s that we got our hands on, and that was when distribution was really tough. Like you couldn't get them.
Yeah, that's tough.
So I believe it might have been a 450 here and there.
Nice.
And back then 450s, when they came out, it was like you had to wait and line up.
You had to know someone. You had to get a ship. Like it's just a whole.
Yeah,
it
was a whole situation. But yeah, so started out basically just following him, get into different beers, and then I just kind of was like, all right, you know what? This is actually something really interesting to me, because you constantly have something new. Like I said, I'm big on new things. Yeah. So you constantly have an influx of new things you can try, and what's life if you're not going to experience it, right? Yeah. So I started searching for it and started looking like, oh, where can I get new beer? And then, Untapped is basically a bad influence or a good influence again. Yeah. And then you start searching on Untapped, like what's a verified venue, what's, I like this particular beer, like, or somebody else had it. Now, where can I find it in my area? And they have those tools. And then you start going out of your way for these things. So that's how I started doing all that, and then I just kind of started doing it on my own. He started doing it on his own, and one day, this was actually, I believe, last year, that I went to, he has a son, and it was his birthday, and I was talking to him on the ride. I was like, hey, we should do some type of Instagram. Like, I feel like other people need to know about this. Like, they need to know what kind of good stuff is there, because there's so many people out there, when you mention beer, who haven't been in craft beer, like, oh no, I don't like beer, because they associate it with like the Bud Lights of the world, or like, some bad times in college, or just
chugging random shit.
Or they have a concept of dark beer, where they're like, oh no, I don't like dark beer, because they've had one dark beer in their life, and maybe they didn't like it, but your taste also changes as you grow, and there's a whole world out there. So I started talking to him about it, and I was like, I actually have the perfect name for it. Let's base it off of a childhood show that we like, the Blues Clues. Let's do it the Brews Clues. We can just have stickers where we place in different parts of town. People see it, and there's a clue. We can, certain times we can just throw up a sticker somewhere, post it, and be like, hey, find this, and, you get a little reward at the end. And I think JB found one recently, too.
Yeah, I was at astronomy. And then I remember like vaguely that you posted it it was almost like a month before I went there, and I was like, oh, I know where that's at, and I totally forgot about it. And I went there and I was like, wait a second, and I was like, I took a picture and sent it to him. I was like, hey, I think I found it. So that was cool. It's just like those little things that you're like, wait, like it just flashed in your mind. I was like, okay, so I sent him the picture, and then you gave me the Corey's, one of the Corey Stout for their collab with what coffee was it?
Was it Dark Moon?
Yeah, like the local collab.
It was one of the local collabs.
Yeah.
They did 4 separate ones.
Empty collectible?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He gave me an empty. No, we're in town. We're good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a buddy to buddy transaction.
Yeah.
I ain't sending it across the U.S. You know, we may.
So it's funny that you talked about with Jeff, like you guys wanted to start an Instagram page because like you figured people should know about this.
Yeah.
So like when Joseph and I were living together, like we always had people over, and like when we got into craft beer, people were like, "Dude, craft beer, that's gross." We're like, "Whoa. You got to drop the stigma at the door.
Yeah.
We can find something that will pique your interest for you to try."
Mm-hmm.
And literally everybody that came by, "Oh, craft beer, that's gross." No.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Let me try it. We pour it out. Ooh, that's really good. You got any more? We're like, okay, cool. Let's. Here's another one. Here's a different one. Let me know what you think. And then from there, once their guard was dropped, everybody started getting into it more. There's actually a couple of my friends that like came over and tried it.
Yeah.
Now they're heavily into craft beer. They always go to. What's the grocery store that carries them all?
Well, you mean
Or
the
the gas station.
Speedy Mart?
Speedy
Mart. They go to Speedy Mart all the time, sending me pictures. Hey, have you had this one? Hey, this one was great. You should get it. And then they end up texting me, hey, I'm at astronomy, or hey, I'm over here. Like, you want anything? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I still got a lot of my fridge.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, like, we always say, drop it at the door. There's a craft beer for everyone. And so far, we've had a pretty high success rate of just having people try stuff. My girlfriend, she absolutely hated beer. Mm-hmm. And then we gave her some 450, and then she's fucking right there. Oh, I love beer. Oh, yeah, you do. You remember a couple months ago when you said you hated it?
Yeah, definitely. And that has happened so many times with me ever since this Instagram, where I've gotten people into beer. They're like, no, I don't want to try. Like, I just give me the regular, whatever they like usually. I'm like, just try it. Let's do this. We're both here. Let me order this. If you don't like it, I'll drink it. And you know what? We'll do it again. I'll double fist if anything.
Yeah.
Boom.
And like the third time, all right, get your regular one. But at least taste it.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul. I'll drink it because I know I like these two, and I think you might.
Yeah.
So then they get into it, and they're like, oh. And then now I'm getting all these kind of messages like, hey, what did I like over there? I was like, doesn't matter. You like the style. You like these things about it. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
It's not about the particular beer. It's what flavors and what went into it. That's what you like. And then, sometimes they joke with me too. They're like, oh, this guy, he caused all this. Now I'm spending all this money on craft beer. Right. I was like, I can't be trapped in this alone. Like,
I got to share it with everyone. I'm not going to be by myself. But that's a good point. I think a lot of people sometimes get like trapped into that feeling of, what was that beer?
Yeah.
Oh, I had that beer. I loved it. I need that one.
Yep.
Like you see that Beer Zombies, even when we've been in there, people will come and be like, hey, do you still have that beer? No. But it's like, any of us now, it's like that point to where we've been in there so much. We could be like, oh, well, if Matt's busy, Andrew's busy, or someone's busy at the bar, be like, hey, we could recommend this, or they always come up with good recommendations. So it's that style, right? Like, what did you like about that beer? It's always like the great question to ask, like, oh, you like the blueberry now? Oh, you like that? It was a light, refreshing beer. Mm-hmm. You can always find something, even if they never had craft beer. What do you like about that Coors Light that you have? Yeah. Oh, it's chuggable. Oh, let's get you a Montucky. Let's step you up one. Like, start to get you
baby
into
steps.
Yeah. So it's always a fun time to see and like experiment with people. Be like, hey, try this. If you don't like it, go offer another option, or we got you. So that's what's always nice about kind of that interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things is when people are so against stouts in particular, because they're just like dark beer in general, right? It's the evil of the world.
It's my same thing with the Guinness. That was my first thing that you said. Like, I tried a Guinness. Well, I was in Ireland, believe it or not, at the factory, and I was like, oh man, this is so sick. I learned how like to produce it, all that stuff, and then you get a free pint at the end of the time, and it's just like I drink it, and I just like
struggling,
and I was like, you know what, bartender, you can have my beer. So
it's
like I'm never gonna drink a dark beer ever again. And then again, you get the stouts and stuff like that. It's a totally different ball game right there.
And it kind of transitions perfectly into our stout we're having right now.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
We got to talk about it because
This is warmed up really nice, by the way. I have to cut you off there because that warmed up, it gives you kind of a different perspective than I had when it was a little bit colder.
Yeah. So that's why we always recommend, especially we try to do better with this, is especially with stouts, don't have it completely ice cold. Have it at a perfect serving temperature, then kind of let it warm up to appreciate everything about it, especially a barrel age, so you get more of that barrel characteristic. This one in particular, I wish I knew which barrel it came from, because my journey in this one, and I'll see what you guys think, is you kind of get such a mellowed out smoothness, and I think that's from the coconut in it, but that kind of chocolate rich texture is there throughout. So I think this one is one of those rides of where nothing is going to overpower it at any point. It's a very smooth ride, but you still get tons of chocolate flavor, tons of coconut to smooth it out. But the coconut's not overwhelming. It's not going to be something to where, oh, I only taste coconut. Nope, chocolate, coconut play very well together. You get a little bit of a barrel, because I wouldn't guess, or most people wouldn't right off the bat, that this is a 13.5%.
Yeah.
You would even guess oh, this is a lighter stout, 10%. Because of just how drinkable it is. As it warmed up, though, you get a lot more of that smooth characteristic throughout.
So it's kind of funny that you say this, because when we first had it cold, all I got was the coconut, and then I got a little bit of the barrel at the end, and it was okay, this is interesting. As it warmed up, it goes coconut, then the cocoa nibs, because I'm ooh, this is really sweet. I like this, and then the bourbon barrel at the end is not as the bourbon taste where it kind of burns, or you get it's punching you in the mouth. It doesn't really punch me in the mouth. It's nice and calm and tame.
Yeah.
And this whole thing is oh man, this is delicious. Look at me breaking down a stout.
Look at you.
Who would have guessed that a year ago?
Yeah, because I think they said on this one, bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout conditioned on Jamaican blue mountain coffee, Ecuadorian cocoa nibs, and 100 plus pounds of toasted coconut.
Wow.
So it's a big one, and a lot of stuff goes into it to make it that complex, right?
Yeah.
That's where you get up into that rating that gets over a 4, because of the complexity, the layers, the ability to put those flavors together and not be harsh. Because when you get a barrel, we've had really strong barrels, we appreciate it, some people don't, but that could be too harsh. But this one is just, that's why I want to know which barrel, because it's so relaxed with the flavors. It plays very well.
And I think it's very different, because some stouts, when you drink them, when they have those complexities, they taste more layered, right? You taste this, then you taste this, then you taste this. This is more of a symphony. Everything's very well balanced, and it's put together very well, where it just, I don't know, it just joins together like a perfect right angle joint.
Yeah.
I've had to drink this much to try to figure it out. As you guys were all talking about it, I'm okay, I have to throw some input on this. On the nose, I get basically kind of coconut, of course, the chocolatey nature of it, and then and then a little bit of burn on the nose. And then when I taste it, I'm okay, now I'm tasting kind of like a coconut milk in a way, where it just kind of leaves that silky texture on your tongue.
I love that explanation. Perfect.
And it's kind of like a brownie. When I took the first sip when it was cold, it just reminded me of a fudge brownie in a way, where it was just all chocolate. And then now I had to pick it out because you guys were talking about it. I'm oh shit, I have to say something.
Because let me get complex real quick. Let me break this down.
So now here it is. It still has that nice, robust chocolate characteristic, but there's a little bit of barrel. There's a little bit of heat on it, which, I mean, I like my mixed drinks strong. I think everybody knows that. When I make them for people, they're strong, because I think you got to realize that, hey, you're still drinking alcohol. Calm down. Don't drink that.
We're not getting ripped off.
You're not getting ripped off. Don't drink 10 of these, okay? You drink 2 or 3 of my drinks, you're fine, okay? So
fine.
This is
You're feeling good. Yeah.
This is definitely on the lower end.
Okay.
Yeah. Where I don't taste the 14%, and I think that's a little dangerous. Some people like that, some people don't.
Yeah.
Some people like the taste of alcohol, some people don't. I'm on the camp of the former, where, I like tasting the alcohol in there, because I'm okay, all right, it has a characteristic. I don't necessarily like getting drunk, but the alcohol flavor is something of a characteristic, whether it be beer or tequila, or, I mean, something I don't necessarily like is vodka. but still, this has like the slightest amount, but it's still quite noticeable. But it's mostly chocolate and a milky kind of silky coconut texture.
milky,
And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, how people have different tastes, right?
Yeah.
So some people, when you first introduce them to craft beer, they're like, this doesn't taste like alcohol, I don't like it. They want to taste a little bit of that alcohol, and you got to just kind of play with it to discover what they actually like. And so that's a good point, that you like that little bit of bite to it. And I also prefer that in this. It adds really well to the whole body of it.
Yeah.
All right, so we hate to do it to you because we do it to you almost every time. I feel so bad, but
That's
here
the
last, not least, but here we go.
It's good.
It's good. I like it. I get to dissect everyone.
He said, we're going to start the quotations on Dylan's side and end it over here.
And then we're gonna hop over here.
Yeah.
Well,
And
they
so-
used all the words.
Oh, so everything you said. No, it's all good. Off the nose for me, I got a lot of barrel.
Okay.
Like I got a lot of barrel. The first time you said it was a lot of chocolate. Is that
Yeah,
what
like
you said?
brownie.
Like when I tasted
That's
it.
exactly what
Yeah.
I was saying, but
Yeah.
now, like as I drink it more, it reminds me of an almond joy. That's
Okay,
totally
yeah.
what I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
getting a lot of almond joy. It brought me back nostalgia a little bit.
Yeah,
with,
'cause you
like,
get
getting
that
some almond
chocolate.
joys, yeah.
Yeah.
With the
So that's kind of how like I would
smooth.
personalize this in a way. But in my famous scale, to start off with the scale here, I do shirt and shorts with the socks off. So it's a 4.5.
There
Ooh.
you go.
The socks
I like
are off.
The
it.
socks are off. You know that's
So
legit.
it knocked your socks off.
Yeah, I knocked my socks off.
Ooh, I like that.
Absolutely, it was a really good. I liked it
Aaron?
a lot.
What's your rating on this?
I would have to probably follow up on that something similar. Like it's really good.
Yeah, it was
It's
very
really good. I don't know what a 5 is in my book. Honestly, I'd rate a lot of things a 5 if I could. But if you rate everything a 5, then you're just like, you have no standards. So
Yeah, that's
a
what you got.
4.5, I guess.
You're living in a convertible house, no ceiling.
As Macklemore says, the ceiling can't hold us right now.
God.
Okay, we'll go with you now. So
Oh, you
what's
like
your
that
rating?
one?
You throw it to the guy that's over here pissing himself laughing. I will honestly have to give this a 4.7.
Okay.
I really
Ooh.
liked how it warmed up.
Yes.
Because you guys all said it. The beginning when it was cold tasted like chocolate fudge. And that was the first thing for me was like, oh damn, like I wonder if there's another bottle where I can make like fudge with this. Like that would be kind of a cool mix, But then this warmed up, I'm like, ooh no, here's the complexity. Here's everything that like it says on the bottle. And like for me, it's just well balanced in my taste profile, and I would love to have this maybe a 4th or 5th time. So I would definitely give it a 4.7.
Yeah. Kind of right in between this area. I would say a 4.6. I love it. I think it's great. I think the complexity is there. My only thing is it's nitpicking at this point, right? I think something like this, I think it's because it's the Imprint side. Nothing to Imprint. I think they have great stuff. Especially some of my favorite stuff from them is their collabs with Mortalis. Their Hydra Smoothie was incredible. One of my favorite beers. They did a Hydra Alamo that's like a strawberry ice cream. Awesome. Like those are the mango one for me, the Hydra Smoothie, the first time I ever had it was like a 5 out of 5. Still one of my 5 out of 5 beers.
Oh, wow.
For a stout, I think because Mortalis did their version too. I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure Mortalis probably did it just a little bit better. And that's, for me, I think they would have probably made the barrel stand out more. And they would have added another layer of complexity. Because that's what Mortalis does in their stouts. They just really hit the nail on the head with how they're able to layer stouts. I would still rate it a 4.6. I think it's great. It hits all the points that I'm looking for.
That's like what you said. You're
But it's
nitpicking.
nitpicking at that point, right?
Right.
So that's where I get that 4.6. And yeah, everything was said here. It's good. So I want to see what your rating is.
So I'm also on the same boat as you. So 4.6 would be my rating for this. I will say I do like how everything was married together, but I want to taste a little bit more of the barrel.
Yeah.
I want that more peatiness. Just not too much of it, but nitpicking, dashes here and there. Again, comparing it to, the ceiling, I would say 4.6. It's basically there, but if they just added that.
It just
little,
needs those like little
that
sprinkles.
little thing, you know, the little
touch.
Salt Bay action. Add some peat.
Just a little changes to it
So,
would have been perfect.
I'm interested, since you guys had this last year, how did you rate last year? I know you said you liked last year's better. How about the rest of you? What would you rate it compared to last year?
To be honest, there was a lot of beer had since last year.
And
last year, I didn't really like stouts that much.
Okay.
So I feel like now that I've came more around to it, I feel like my rating this time around is a lot higher than it was last year.
Yeah, I should have went back and listened to
Yeah.
see what our rating was, but because of course I've gotten a lot better at Untapped. Because we were not as good. I still have a shit ton of check-ins, but I'm getting better. All I remember is because I'm looking at the description, same stuff in there, just barrel aged, right? But I think it was a lot sweeter, and it had a little bit more thickness to it, because that's what I'm seeing in the reviews. But it was rated a lot lower. So last year's version was rated 4.26, and it was only 12%. This year it's bumped it up a little bit more, and the rating I think was 4.41. So like you could tell people like barrel aged more. They see the complexity, but for me, I think I liked last year's more because we didn't have the expectation of the barrel.
Gotcha.
But I don't know. Maybe when I go back, I was probably like, oh, I rated a 4.2 because I wish it was barrel aged. So probably what I said, because I think that's something I would say. But
no, I'm pretty sure you said that.
Yeah, I'm probably that person. But I think no matter what, at the end of the day, it's still great. Got it on Tavor for, I think it was like $27, so you don't have to pay proxies, have it shipped across the U.S. So to get something like that directly to your door so we could share it at the price point, amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. And I really like your point of doing the disclaimer, because 100% that's a huge factor, right?
Yeah.
Like you can, once you're getting into beer or like a certain style of beer, you're like, you know what, I actually didn't know that much. So a key thing would be, if you ever get your hands on last year's, re-rate it.
Yeah, so like for me, like these guys can tell you, I'm not a big coffee person. The coffee taste, coffee smell for me instantly turns me off. And over the, what would you say, 9 months, 10 months?
Yeah, I'd say probably close to the 9 months.
Yeah, 9 months of like having stouts, I finally like grew to appreciate them and grew to like them.
Right.
And the coffee doesn't really screw me up as much, but you pour me straight up a cup of coffee, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. No, I'm sorry, but there's only one coffee that I've like actually found out that I liked, and it's Mud Waters. So like, yeah. But anything else like coffee related, you can count me out.
I'll join you too, okay?
Yeah.
We'll hang out.
It's okay.
We'll have tea in the corner.
Nice. So before we continue going on your adventure, I'm going to announce the next project that we have going together.
Absolutely. Super excited.
So we came up with this idea of doing Costco versus Sam's Club beer calendar for the month of December. So both beer calendars are rated for December 1st all the way through December 24th. And we're going to be doing the live tasting, the live reaction on Instagram Live. You can find it at Brews Clues or at Brews WTH. That's where the live stream is going to be happening on Instagram. So if you want to check it out, you guys want to join us, I got the names of both beer calendars here. I'm going to have JB read them off real quick.
So we have the Sam's Club one. That's an American craft beer advent calendar. It's beers brewed in the USA. It's going to be different styles, I think, throughout. So that way there's a good mix. The other one is from Costco's. It's Brewers Advent Calendar, Germany. So that's going to be all German styles throughout the calendar. So we're going to also do, in addition to the Instagram Lives, to kind of kick it off, we're going to do our bite episode. So we're going to be featuring the USA basically versus German one. So we'll do one episode of each. That way you guys could kind of see it broken down, and that will be posted up right away so you guys could kind of experience it with us.
We'll find out if it's called soccer.
Right. So our first initial Instagram live video is going to be December 2nd. Because we're doing this in podcast form, December 1st is going to be right here in person. You guys can either listen or watch it wherever you watch or listen to your podcast.
Yep. And so kind of to wrap this up, we just wanted to kind of got your journey of kind of how you got there, the different styles, kind of where do you want to go with this? What's kind of your goals? Because having like Las Vegas Beer Snob on before, having kind of some of the guys from Beer Zombies, Tom from Deadwood, like for you kind of getting into craft beer, having your Instagram, like what are your goals? What do you want to do it? Do you want to do collabs with people? Do you want to have your own place? Like how does that vision for you look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest thing is I love meeting new people, new beers. That's why a lot of times you guys see me at Beer Zombies or all these venues, I'll be by myself because you know, sometimes when you go with somebody else, you're less likely to, you know, make a new friend or talk to somebody else. And I like picking people's brains and learning from everybody. So yes, absolutely, a lot of collabs. That's what I'm looking forward to, and that's in the pipeline. I want to do collaborations and see what not just other people in, you know, the Beerstagram community, but also, you know, different brewers and how their mind works and what their tastes are like and how they come up with, you know, different beers. Another thing I want to do is rate a lot more venues, because I do feel like, you know, the product does make a difference. Yeah. But if the product is excellent and the service sucks, you know, it ruins the whole thing. Then you're going to rate this less. You're not going to want to go back and try, you know, new things. So I do feel like venues is a huge part of the entire experience. Sure, you can buy some beer, you know, at retail and bring it home and drink it. But it's an entirely different experience when you're there. And it's, as you guys know, it's entirely different getting something on draft versus in can or a bottle. Mm-hmm. And you want the full experience. A lot of times, I think Heron was talking about earlier, is beers taste differently when they're on draft versus in a bottle.
Yeah.
So I want to get more into that individualized section where it's like, all right, the experience plus the product plus how was the product delivered.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like that's that educational part that people will like, because if you were to, let's say, you got a Pliny over there. Yeah. So if you were going to have the Pliny at that venue, you know, how would it taste and how would you rate it compared to if you're having it in a bottle? How did it age? You know, how long ago did you get it? How cold was it? Like, there's so many factors. And going back to the venue, it'll be an entirely different experience based on how the venue experience was. So I want to do a lot more of that and get into a lot more venues and just try them out and see how the beer is there. Possibly get some things to go, try them at home as well, and see, compare and contrast.
Yeah, I love that, because it kind of goes always back to like some of the conversations we have at the bars with, you know, different people behind the bar, sitting with us, that whole concept of how do you go from like house beer, sharing beer, having it on draft, to like that whole, how does that all combine into the ratings? Right. And then how does it combine into your personal opinion of the beers? Because sometimes, let's say Pliny, it's your first time getting it. You take it back from California, you bring it back to your homies, and you go and have it with them at the house. Amazing experience. Say you take it to a bottle share and people haven't had it, and people are hyped up, people are excited that you brought it. Oh, now it feels even better because you're sharing it with these people. They're excited. So like, how does that emotion affect the venue? What happens if you take it to a venue that, they're just like, oh yeah, you could share it, but like, don't like actively like, hey, let's get people to share it with you. Hey, who wants this? It's like, oh no, you could share it. You could kind of figure it out. Yeah. Like, how do those elements play into all that? So I like to hear that, because we haven't really seen that, and that's why, you know, we talk about the venues we go to, or we try to do stuff like that too. And for you to kind of highlight it and hopefully like do reels and show people like, hey, this is a cool spot to hang out. This is what you could do here, and this is why it made it so much fun. People be like, you know what? Fine, I won't drink at home, because that's kind of the two hands that you have, like, of today's society, or even in our range. Do you go out? Do you stay in? Like, oh man, do I really want to go out and pay X, Y, and Z to just share beers when I have some at home? Like, I have really good beer at home. Do I really want to go out tonight? Well, yeah, like, you could get the homies, or we could get people, or meet people, or you're going to go by yourself.
Or you just pop up the Big Beer Sunday and get rid of some of your stuff that you don't want.
And you want to share with everyone. Yeah, so like, those options, that's another good option. Yeah. Like, how can people learn about that? Because some people won't even know it's Big Beer Sunday or what events are going on. So it's always cool to see, like, you know, Beer Zombies will post their event, or Abel Baker will post their event and people will put it on their story, or they'll post in a Facebook group like, hey guys, this is going on, hey, and just trying to like get it out there. So you never know, that follower of yours or someone that's in Vegas at the time or visiting or even a local will be like, I didn't even know that was happening. Because that happens to us. Like there's been a couple times where as much as we're in the scene and trying to stay on top of things, things slip, or you'll see
a lot of things going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. Can you make it all? Or you're like, hey, he's over there hanging out. Like, oh no, I'm missing out. Like, I want to go and hang out. So it's like that whole combination of that's why we post. That's why we kind of share it out. And the more that the community does that, it's cool to see more people join on and do those type of things.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like also it makes a big difference, whether it's Untapped or Instagram, seeing where that beer is being consumed. Yeah. Like when you have the location tagged, like, okay, this beer was had at Beer Zombies during a Big Beer Sunday.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a combination of everything. So I feel like that's a big part of it. And also seeing, wherever somebody's at, it kind of reminded me of how I met you. Yeah. And it was the craziest thing. Do we have time for me to tell that story? Yeah. So it was the craziest thing to me because I believe I think it was at Beer Zombies it was at Beer Zombies Dean Martin.
Yeah.
So I was chilling there, and I think Heron, you were there, and was it Tix? I think he was there too.
Okay.
And then
Tiger,
yeah, Tiger, he was there, and then somebody else. There was a third person. Oh, no, you two were there, and then a third person had texted me. They all were saying the same thing. They're like, are you going to JB's thing tomorrow? I'm like,
oh yeah.
What are you talking about? JB's thing? Like, is JB a place? Like, what? Like, what? Do you mean like PB and J? Like, what are you saying?
Who the fuck is JB?
That was basically my reaction because it was just one after the next.
It's kind of a big deal.
And I think, first it was Tiger because I was chilling at the bar and he's like, oh yeah, so after we got pleasantries out of the way, he's like, so I'll see you tomorrow, right? And I was like, see me tomorrow where? He's like, you're not going to JB's thing? And I promise you, within 10 minutes, this guy shows up, pointing at Heron here. And he shows up, and he's like, hey, what's up, dude? You're coming tomorrow, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? What's tomorrow? He's like, you're not going to JB's thing? And then he gets distracted. And I think you were like, because the bartender asked you what you wanted.
Yeah.
And then I look at my phone real quick while he's ordering the beer. And next thing you know, it's Quinn.
Yeah.
And Quinn's texting me.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, hey, yo, I see you're checking in at Dean Martin. Are you coming to to JB's thing at downtown Summerlin? I'm like, what am I missing out on here? Like, somebody clue me in. Like, everybody...
He said, I'm down, but who the fuck is this guy? Where's it at?
That's what I kept saying. I asked Tiger then while he was ordering. I was like, JB's thing. What's JB's thing? Like, is this some kind of weird thing? Or, like, what is it? Like, no, it's his birthday. I was like, okay. So JB's a person who has a birthday.
Putting the pieces together.
Like, okay, and it's here. Like, what? Tell me more. And like, you don't know JB? I was like, I'm
there we go,
lost here. So they're like, yeah, you should come through. And then Heron got his beer, and then he started talking to me about it. And I was like, all right, I don't know the guy. Like, you sure? Like, I'm just walking in blind on a birthday bash here. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. You drink beer, and he's bringing a bunch of beers, and it's a whole birthday share. So I was like, all right, let's go to a random guy's birthday party at the time. So I ended up showing up, brought a couple beers, and met you guys there, and the rest is history.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
they gave it to you in Blues Clues. Man.
Yeah,
I know
They gave you going to JB's thing. You had to figure out who that was. You had to figure out where it was at. And you had to figure out what the venue was.
I had to check mailbox over here with.
He had his notebook and his crayon. Jot down notes.
Mailbox failed to deliver that invite properly, but no, it was a good time because we had so much beer to share. We had Pliny the Younger there. We all got to share, which was sick. We had a good time at downtown Summerlin. Then we all migrated to Warm Springs. Pat was holding it down, and Pat did the most ridiculous power hour of our life. We went through a shit ton of stuff. We just kept handing it to him, and he's like, all right, let's get this bar going.
That's the part where you guys lost me. You guys went to Warm Springs. I said, I got work in the morning. I was like, y'all can go have fun.
Was that last year? I think it was last year, right?
Yeah.
No, was it this year?
It was
It
this
It
year.
was this
It
year.
was this year.
Yeah,
Well,
it
technically,
That's how long this
That's
year's
how
been,
long
bro.
this
I know, that's how long.
Technically, it's gonna be a year here pretty soon. So
True.
I mean, yeah,
So
we're in
it's-
summer. It was in
yeah.
April. So
It
We're,
does
we're
a long
an
time ago.
advent calendar away from
Yeah.
being next year.
It does feel like a year though. Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap that up here. You can find all episodes at brewswth.com, or you can find us at Instagram at brewswth. We're also on Facebook. It's Brews with the Homies. We're on YouTube, Brews with the Homies. Same on Spotify, Apple, and
all other places.
All the
Yeah,
other
Instagram.
places you get your
And then
podcasts.
also follow, like all of Brews Clues stuff. He always posts great reels. He's always out there, so you can check out his stories. And
don't be afraid to ask him what kind of beers he likes or like where to get some good stuff. Because
Yeah.
he, like he said, half of the other Brews Clues is in California.
California,
So
LA,
if you're in
yeah.
California, LA area, don't be afraid to DM the page to find out where you can find some good stuff.
yep, and
Yep.
stay tuned for the bite episodes that we'll be posting. Later, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.